Hey guys, come back with another video. Today we're going to watch people who snap kill a pet predator. Get right to the video. Bro, not even 20 seconds into the video of this video that we're watching, it's already bad. Why is she trying to scare him off? Well, that was interesting, but I still have another part on YouTube. Alright. Why were they calling a child? Why were they holding a child on a bike, which was a baby? Indian dad? I just floated, man. I'm trying to process this. What? Alright guys, well, thank you for watching the video. Why? Like everything, it's Uno reverse.
like over some of the deadliest reptiles on the planet. He stared at the snake. It stared back. He continued staring, and so did the snake. And then it did. Now, most people would have panicked, called for help, or maybe tried driving toward a nearby hospital. But this guy just had to be different. Something inside him snapped, and before the snake could slither away, he grabbed the animal with his bare hand and he bit it again, multiple times. He chomped down twice on a reptile that is venomous enough to end the lives of 20 humans with a single bite. He tried wriggling out of his teeth, but he munched on it like it was a piece of jerky, effectively crushing it. Later on, the man was rushed to the hospital and given an antivenom so that he could recover from the bite. He later on told reporters that in some parts of India, there's a superstition that biting a snake transfers the venom back to the animal so that it will pass away instead of you. So, who knows? Maybe the superstition actually worked, or maybe he just needed an excuse for revenge. He was a 69-year-old Alaskan hunter, and on November 1st, 1999, he was out in the wilderness doing what he'd done for decades, hunting. He knew the woods, and more importantly, he knew how to handle himself. Him and three other hunters set out to catch a black-tailed deer, but due to the windy weather, it was extraordinarily hard to sneak up on them. So they split up into groups of two. Later on, after hunting for what felt like hours, the man and his partner became frustrated because they still hadn't caught the deer. So he came up with a plan. He told his partner to split up with him and said, "If I let out a shot, you come to my noise. But if you let out a shot, then I'll come to your noise." His partner nodded in agreement, but the only issue is that his partner was also wearing a heavy-duty hat with thick ear flaps that muffled the sound of pretty much everything outside. The man split up from his teammates, and within just a bit, he found the deer they were trying to hunt all day. He took aim, marking a successful hunt for him and his crew. He waited for his partner to come, but it didn't happen. He began hooting like an owl a few times to draw attention, but his partner still didn't show up. The man rolled his eyes in annoyance, took off his rifle, and put it beside a tree. He then decided to butcher the deer meat by himself, and after cutting away at it for a while, the man heard a twig snap behind him. Feeling relieved that his partners finally showed up, he turned around to greet his crew. A brown bear stands at about 10 feet tall, weighs about 1,000 pounds, and runs as fast as a car on a street. Unfortunately for this man, it wasn't his crew members that showed up, but instead the bear. The hunter froze when he saw it. The distance between the two of them was about 30 feet away, and the distance between him and his rifle was only 2 feet. But the bear let out a roar, and it charged him so fast that it was impossible for him to even think about trying to grab that weapon. He only had one option available: his buck knife. He dropped his deer meat, quickly grabbed the blade from his pocket, and right as he pulled it out, the man beast was already right in front of him. The hunter aimed to slash at the bear's open mouth, but he missed and accidentally sliced its face instead,
Oh my!
angering the bear.
It was at this moment he keep
He crushed his arm with its teeth, tearing off his skin and exposing his bone. The hunter screamed in pain. The full-grown bear pushed him to the ground, pinning him into a death. While it twisted away at the hunter's arm, he quickly used his free hand to try to poke the bear's eye out with his thumb, but it began thrashing him around, causing him to miss continuously. The man switched gears and instead took his finger and jammed it deep into the bear's ear canal, rupturing its eardrum.
oh
The beast let go of him and recoiled in confusion and annoyance. It then let out another 100 to 120 decibel roar and charged at the hunter again. The man was still on his back, so he desperately kicked the bear square in the throat, making it stumble as he hopelessly scrambled back to his feet. He was covered in blood, with an arm that was completely mangled, and a bear that was charging at him again to finish him off for good. The man's mind raced, and his thoughts became a blurry panic. He was actually getting eaten alive by a bear, and he was running out of options for survival. Acting quickly, he fell onto his butt and stretched out his leg to use it as bait for the bear to bite onto and be distracted with. This would prove to be a terrible decision, because instead of just biting the lower end of his leg, it actually chomped down on his thigh, giving it complete control over his entire body. The bear began to shake the man around like a rag doll, thrashing his body around and bashing his skull on the floor, nearby trees and rocks, causing serious damage. The hunter couldn't see a single thing. His ears got blocked from the extreme bear dropped the man and backed away as it bled from his neck with his knife stuck in it. The man stood up on one foot with his body exposed, showing both muscle and bone, but he fell into a delirium and began screaming as a bear. Reports mention that he began desperately shouting something to the lines of "God is on my side" or "the Lord is with me." The bear charged at him again, and with one good arm, punched the bear square in the snout repeatedly, causing the disoriented animal to collapse on the ground. The hunter collapsed on the ground with the bear, and quickly scrambled to his feet to grab his rifle. Each time he stood up, he fell. But finally, he got to his weapon. At this point, his vision was blurry, his eyes were covered in blood, his hearing was muffled, and he was on the brink of passing out. He stood over the bear's body with his weapon, aimed it at the bear, and then tried to shoot it. However, nothing happened. He quickly looked at his rifle and realized the flesh hanging off of his body had jammed the gun. The bear began groaning and slowly getting up again. He tirelessly pulled the flesh out, then aimed the weapon at the bear again. He was victorious, but then he immediately collapsed to the ground. The man could barely stand. He dragged himself across the snowy forest until he reached the beach. Sticks and branches tore at his already mangled body to gore. Each time he was about to lose consciousness from the sheer amount of pain he was in, he'd quickly grab a chunk of ice-cold snow and shove it into his mouth to shock him back away. When he made it to the snowy beach, he finally saw his team. Horrified with what they saw, they ran to the man's disfigured body.
So, wait, hold on. Let me repeat that real quick.
Finally saw his team mouth to shock him back away. When he made it to the snowy beach, he finally saw his team. Horrified with what they saw,
What if they were at the snowy camp tent area the whole time? And he has three friends there. So you're telling me that not one of them hurt
they ran to the man's disfigured body to help him out. Drenched in blood, the only thing the man said before passing out was, "Please." This is the story of Gene O, an Alaskan huntsman. After receiving multiple skin grafts and about 1,000 stitches, he survived and made a full recovery from his nightmare. And despite the trauma, Gene kept on hunting well into his 70s. He credited his survival to God, and he would go on to live a full life until 2024, where he passed away peacefully at 93. The wilderness is extraordinarily dangerous, but honestly, the moral of today's story is don't mess with Russian grandmas, don't mess with Florida men, and especially don't mess with any Alaskan Christian dudes that have a bear hanging up on their wall. Now, go and have a happy day.
Thank you guys for watching the video if you made this far. Thank a talking hat for making this video. Actually pretty interesting. 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 And it's a bit crazy. But yeah, we will be doing part 2, which is the pro boxer. It's right here. And yeah, thank you guys for watching the video.